Hello, I'm Meredith, and I'm sorry I can't be with you tonight. Unfortunately, I double booked myself, so I'm going to share my story with you this way. We started looking at the concept of simplifying our stuff about 5-7 years ago, but we didn't really get into it majorly until about, I would say, 4 years ago. We started off taking a class here in church called Voluntary Simplicity that was created by the Cincinnati Earth Institute, but we had a couple of church members facilitate it, and it was great. That's where the topic was introduced to us, and we started to think about simplifying things such as our schedules, what we own, our kids' lives, our technology, our food, and things like that. So in terms of simplifying our stuff, we started to get rid of things. Really, it took us about 3 years to get rid of what we felt were the excess items we owned, from furniture to toys to stationery, you name it. We had lots of it. So we started donating it, and we tried to sell some. We had to trash some things that were, not usable, or we didn't feel like we could pass it along or someone would want it. But really, it all started from my feeling of frustration with not being able to find things when I needed them, not understanding why we had so many things to look through, and why we had so many boxes in storage and things that we didn't even look at or use. So that was kind of the motivation for it. The video talks about the impact on the environment, and while we certainly looked at that in the class we took, I would say that didn't come along as a concern for me until much later in the process. So in the beginning, it was just about having less and worrying less about where to put things, how to keep them clean, and find things. So that's kind of how things started. I would say that, as I mentioned, the environmental piece didn't come along for me until later, but I noticed that it became increasingly difficult for us to get rid of things because not everybody wants people's old stuff. One issue is because they all have it. Everybody in this culture, in this country, they all already have all this. So it's not that easy to get rid of things. It's hard to find places that will take them sometimes, donated items even, things like mattresses. What do you do with old mattresses? For health reasons, places won't take them. Or large TVs that are very old. We had a hard time finding a place to get rid of those. So then I sort of turned the focus on to not getting it in the first place, which is the better, obviously, option, because then you don't have to worry about adding to the landfills and finding places for the extra stuff. So that's been even tougher, keeping it out of the house, saying no to people when they offer you the free things, and explaining to our kids, why these free plastic toys that we win or get different places aren't that great, and what impact that all of these things has, as the video mentions, on other people in other countries. Why it's not just about us, or that we don't want to have lots of things, or that we don't need them. It's also about what companies we're supporting when we buy those things, when we let them into the house, what that does to other people, who made that, what kind of working conditions did they have when they made it. So it sort of progressed from just wanting less to wanting to really not impact the environment and the world in a negative way. So at this point, that's kind of where our focus is, just trying not to accumulate more, and learning really what we really need. We still have too much. We've downsized in the past 2 years. Less than 2 years ago, we moved to a 950 square foot apartment from an almost 3,000 square foot huge house. So you'd think that we've made great progress, and we have, but we still have a long way to go. I find it interesting that when we tell people about the travel we're about to embark upon, that they can't believe we're just taking one backpack each. And I just find that interesting, because I don't think it's that. I've done this kind of trip before for 2 months in Europe, and I had one backpack, and I was fine. And there were things I missed from time to time, but overall, I think we'll be fine. And it just begs the question, do we even need what we have in our 950 square foot apartment if we could do it all in one backpack for an unknown amount of time. So yeah, I guess the only other thing I would say is, they touched on this in the video as well, but we've certainly seen the happiness factor, because when we had all that stuff and we worked all those hours before I stayed home, became a stay-at-home mom, and when Andy was working all those hours, we were not happy in general. We were always stressed out. We were always tired. We didn't have time to talk to or listen to our kids fully because we were always doing something else. And all of that was about keeping up with these jobs we had to have to make all this money so that we could keep all this stuff in the cars and the house and all of that. So now that we've downsized and we both own our own businesses and set our own hours and we homeschool, certainly there are challenges, but I can definitely see an increase in our happiness that's gone right alongside the decrease in the amount of stuff that we have, both physical and in our schedule. So that's pretty much my story.